So hi, welcome everyone who's joining. My name's Zach. I work at Nordens Chartered Accountants. We are an award-winning accountancy firm, finalists at the minute for a Client Success Award, and also finalists for our Marketing Campaign Award, which funny enough is actually to do with neurodiversity and our support within that community. So I think today's webinar is a really good point with that, which is great. Obviously, today's webinar is money management for neurodiverse business owners. I will introduce you to our panel. So as you've heard me, this is Sylvia from Allica Bank. They're a leading private bank who support us in helping neurodiverse business owners. So hi, Sylvia, how are you?
No, but at all. Thanks, Zach.
Good. And then we've also got Ellice, who is from Mindset. She's a business psychologist, worked with Ellice many years. She's actually come in and done a lot of training for our firm. To help manage and support neurodiverse business owners. Hi, Alice, how are you?
Hello, yes, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. It's my first time doing anything like this, guys, so if I'm a little bit nervous, I apologize. But yeah, I'm really excited to sort of get going and sort of really get into the nitty gritty. So just a little bit more about sort of the discussion today. Obviously, it's all about supporting and helping neurodiverse business owners sort of go through the complexities of running a business, supporting them with their money management, and really just trying to support them in the best way possible, give them a little bit of tips and little tricks and little systems in place to help them manage money better, manage their business, and help them achieve the goals that they want to achieve. Ellice, obviously, with what you do in the space, I think it'd be a good way to start is basically to go through sort of some of the struggles and some of the things that some business owners with neurodiversity face, and I think it'd be good to sort of open the discussion to see how sort of we can help.
Absolutely. So I'm coming at this conversation from a business psychologist perspective, but also a place of lived experience, because as myself, I am also neurodivergent. So some of the potential challenges I've definitely lived through myself. And the thing is about being neurodivergent is we have different strengths and we might have some different struggles. And from personal experience, things like budgeting and time management, that might affect how we pay bills on time, or procrastinating because things might seem a little bit more challenging. I find that saving consistently can sometimes be a bit of a difficulty, and understanding financial documents, or I've got a bit of a funny story about making sure I use the right numbers and tax codes and things like that, which might come up in this discussion. But the thing about being neurodivergent, like I said, is the experiences are very different for everybody. But there can be some similarities when it comes to money management, and particularly for us neurodivergent, there's even been something called that's being coined as neurodivergent tax, because those difficulties might lead into neurodivergent people being more likely to experience debt, more likely to experience fines and things like that. So it's so important that we make sure that we get the support that we need and that is out there for money management. So it's really great to be part of the team here at Nordens to support people who might struggle with some of their money management.
Definitely. I think obviously a good sort of thing to sort of start with, I think, is obviously with the money management, obviously, is the saving of money. I think that's a really big thing, and I think we discussed in the past about how sort of people, like you said, struggle with the saving consistently and knowing the sort of the tax laws and the percentage of tax to make sure they're putting the right amount of money away on a sort of a monthly, weekly, bi-month, whatever they need to do to sort of support themselves. I think a really good point that you were discussing with obviously doing the banking side of things, which we were talking about earlier, is so for people that aren't aware, obviously, if we're talking, for example, a limited company, obviously you have corporation tax at sort of 19 to 25%. Make it easy, call it 25%, and obviously you have VAT at 20%. And some banks, and we'll touch on it in a minute, Sylvia, is obviously they have really good sort of tools and access to allow you to basically set up saving amounts. So when you receive that sort of income, so you receive that bit of income straight away, the bank, if you have the tools there will move that money into a savings account for you straight away as sort of like a tax pot in a way, which then allows you to, when that money hits the account and you look at your actual bank account, you're not seeing all the money and like, oh my god, I've got to make sure I put this away. It's done for you, which I think is such a helpful tool to have. Sylvia, I know we were talking about Allica Bank and obviously the sort of tools, and you were talking about with the tech team. Is there any sort of progress with that at the minute of these sorts of tools?
Yes. So I've had a discussion with our product team, but ultimately, one thing I want everybody to know about Allica is, what we stand for is all about the relationship, and being a neurodivergent business, I think having an honest and open discussion about, okay, what do you struggle with? Then, we'll be able to kind of step in. And one of the things we provide in Allica is having a relationship manager, have that point of contact, having somebody to talk to, okay? Because when you look at being neurodivergent, okay, it tends to play out in different way, so that different spectrum. So what might work for one person might be different from the other. So I think having that honest conversation with maybe somebody like me as a relationship manager, okay, this is where I struggle with my business, then I'll be able to sit down and look at, okay, let's just see how we can actually help you with this. So in Allica, okay, we do have our current account. There is a savings account that is linked to it. So you can have different savings pots that you can name. Okay, this is VAT account, this is this account, this is that account. It just makes it simple. But ultimately, because our system is not legacy system, so it's built from scratch, so it makes it very, very easy for, different accountancy software to kind of integrate into it. So if maybe having, reconciling an account is an issue for a business owner, okay, if you're able to plug in your accountancy software, then your accountant will be able to see your transactions and you'll be able to do all those reconciliation. So, and also our platform is very user friendly. So we want it to be as simple as possible, and if there are any issues, because you can talk to somebody, it makes it easier, because not everybody is kind of tech savvy. Okay, so in Allica, it's more like, okay, yes, we want to enable everybody to be able to use technology, but we don't want to remove that human element. Okay, we want somebody to be able to call, oh, Sylvia, okay, I'm having problems with this. How can I go about it? Because if we look at, when it comes to banking, okay, it's all about access to lending and savings. Okay, so lots of neurodivergent people, they might think, okay, I don't think I've got the support from my bank. Okay, I really want to grow, maybe not organically, maybe I want to acquire another business, but how do I go about it? Okay, so having that conversation with somebody, it's actually, I would say, cannot be overemphasized. Have a conversation. This is my plan as a business owner. This is what I want to achieve. Okay, how can I go about it? Then we can have that conversation. But it's all about being simple. Access to lending. Okay, I want to lend. How do I go about it? Okay, what forms do I need to fill? If you're struggling filling the form, I've had to fill forms for clients that I think, okay, they're really struggling here. So that's why I say, okay, using technology is great, but don't remove that human element, and let's talk about it.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. I think it will come back and we'll harp on it quite a bit. So apologies if I do get repetitive, but I think it really is helpful to have that support network in place, having that accountant, having a relationship with your bank manager, having someone in sort of a business psychology sort of setting where you can have those people to lean on, because like we say, there are certain things that you will struggle with more than others. I say to so many different business owners, neurodivergent or not, for example, they could be a painter decorator business. You ask me to go and paint a house, I am not going to have a single clue what I'm doing. So I'm going to lean on someone who knows what they're doing. So that's the same in everything else. In banking, lean on someone who knows what they're doing. If it's to do with mindset and psychology, lean on someone. If it's to do with accounting, there are so many different sort of loopholes and things that will catch you out when it comes to accountancy. Is so worrying. I mean, Ellice, I know you sort of, when you first started talking, you brought it up before, but I think one of the big thing is when you're paying HMRC, the amount of different references that
oh my gosh,
that you have. And because of what happened with Ellice, and we'll talk. Ellice, do you want to sort of share light on that story? Sorry, I don't want to throw you under. I don't want to throw you under it a little bit, but
no, I think it's a really important story where it's like, with the HMRC, there's different codes, and I didn't quite realise what those codes were specifically for. And even after 8 years of running my business, I managed to, what was it? I paid my corporation tax to PAYE, and then ended up getting loads of letters saying you haven't paid your PAYE, you haven't paid your tax. But I thought that they were scam, because I thought, yeah, no, I've definitely paid this. Why is this company contacting me as if I've not paid it? And it created a bit of an issue. Fortunately, it was easily resolved, and thank goodness that I'm with Nordens, because they're able to, carry that out for me. And so, just hearing what you and Sylvia were saying about, the relationships, I really do think that is such an important factor for somebody who is neurodivergent to really consider who it is they bank with, who their accountants are, so that you can build relationships with people in a way that you benefit from. And I think that what's lovely about Allica and Nordens is that they recognise that there are different communication preferences. I'm somebody that prefers to have a conversation, pick up the phone, let's have a chat. Zach's been my accountant for a number of years now, and bless him, I've sent a few voice notes on WhatsApp, and they're fine with that as a communication style. Others might not prefer that. They might prefer things to just be done through email, so because they process things better written down. And the fact that Allica and Nordens, and I'm sure other organisations as well, are considerate of different communication preferences, that is something that I think is so valuable for a neurodivergent business owner. Find companies and organisations that are willing to work with you in a way that works with your brain.
Exactly, and I think from the obviously experience we had, we realised that this is an issue with quite a few people that have happened in the past. So what we've now done is we've developed a sort of help sheet where it's really clear and concise, and literally, if you are, because just to make you aware, people, that obviously as a business owner, you'll have your personal UTR number, you'll have a company UTR number. If you have payroll registration, you'll have a payroll reference number and a PAYE reference number, two different things. You will also have a VAT number, you have a company number, you have your corporation tax number, and also a personal tax number to pay your personal tax as well. So there's all these different...
Which change as well,
change, yeah. So the corporation tax one does change that's the only one that does change, but corporation tax does change on a yearly basis, because HMRC like to keep everyone on their toes, because they're just so handy. It's so simple for everyone. And it's just making sure that you as business owners have as much... to make sure you have as much information as possible to make those decisions, and make sure when you are paying your tax, you're paying it to the right section. Yes, of course, it is fixable, but it can be quite annoying. And unfortunately, HMRC don't talk. So all of a sudden, you might receive a letter like Ellice received from a debt collection company, which since called HMRC is now being sorted. I'm sure Ellice will probably receive another letter from a debt collection company, because they don't communicate. And that's stressful as well. Which is obviously not great. I mean, another thing as well, just talking on paying HMRC, is obviously knowing the times to pay your tax. That's a big thing as well. And obviously what we've done actually is developed a tool where when a client comes on board, they'll be sent a document. You can literally, all you need to do is put in your year end in, and it will sort of produce all of the dates that you need to pay your tax. So for example, so people are aware, obviously you've got your personal tax, which is due every January, and if you have on-account payments, also in July. Your corporation tax is due 9 months and 1 day after your year end. Your VAT is due 1 month and 7 days after your VAT period, and obviously your POA is due at the end of each month as well. So there's just so many different things to sort of have to navigate. And I mean, Ellice, as a business owner, I mean, how have you sort of found navigating those sorts of things? Because it must be. I see it every day, and I'm used to it. But when you're not doing it every day,
literally, as you were talking, Zach, my brain just kind of froze, being like, "Oh my gosh!" So these types of financial administrative tasks are exhausting and overwhelming for me specifically, but for many people. And it can just get to a point where it feels overwhelmed, that you just don't know how to navigate it. And I know you've already mentioned it, but it's been such a value to me to have someone like Nordens just make it into an easy infographic or an easy visual tool. Because you mentioned about all these numbers that you don't get them in one place either. So it's not like the HMRC provide them to you in one easy location, is it? And often, you gather these pieces of information over the years. Like when I started my business, I wasn't initially VAT registered. It was something that came later on. So you're just collating all of these things. And over the years, it can just be like an administrative nightmare. And admin is not my strong suit, especially not financial admin. And so when you've got somebody like Nordens who go, don't worry about it, here's the list all together for you, and all those dates that you mentioned, trying to remember all of them. I remember you gave me a great tool where I just put in one, or you just gave me one date, and then it automatically worked out what all these other dates were. Plus, of course, you give me emails towards the kind of deadlines as well, just saying, don't forget, here's these points. So for me, being able to rely on somebody who knows what they're doing has been such a brilliant thing. And you just get my communication preferences as well. So, when I don't understand something, someone's happy to talk to me because they know that I prefer to talk to somebody. That's how I process information. And the same with, banking, being able to have a relationships manager like yourself, Sylvia, to say, I'm really struggling to understand this, and there's just absolutely no judgment. They've got the time for you. It really helps avoid the shame, because I think that some of us might experience some frustration and some have experienced shame, and it's nice that you can be in a safe environment where actually finance isn't something that you have to struggle with by yourself. We've got your back and we want you to succeed.
Absolutely. And also, guys, just a quick one, obviously, if you've throughout this discussion, if you have any questions or inquiries, feel free to just pop them in the Q&A chat. We're happy to sort of answer anything as and when we sort of go. I mean, just talking on sort of, I think, budgeting and talking about how the sort of like I said, the when to pay your tax and things like that. There are so many different softwares and things out there. I think you mentioned that link to things like your bank and stuff like Xero and other bookkeeping softwares. They're all great now. I think they're already improving. I think they're such a helpful tool to have. And if you're not on a bookkeeping software, I think it's such a key component to sort of see where you are with your business and where you are in terms of your tax, and being able to sort of understand what's going on with your business, because obviously it's difficult. And obviously if you haven't got that sort of support network there, your accountant or a bank manager who can sort of give you a bit more insight, it's really difficult. And I guess it's hard to sort of understand what you can and can't afford. And if you are looking potentially for loans, I mean, Sylvia, touch on sort of like, obviously when applying for sort of loans or extra credit, there's so many sort of documentation and things you have to fill in. It's a lot. And obviously talk about the experience of sort of trying to get information out of people. I'm sure it's not easy, and especially for some people that struggle with those sort of mundane admin tasks, it might be really difficult.
Yeah, Ellice said something about, not being judgmental. I think that's where we come in, as in, we're not being judgmental. Yes, there's some documents, that business is required to complete before we can do a full, assessment of, do they really qualify for this loan? But it's all about, let's talk about it. If you're struggling sending any documents, can I speak to your accountant direct? Because a bank talking to an accountant, I need this, I need, their financial account, I need their trade debtors, I need this, we will speak the same language because we're in the same financial industry. But if I just ping you an email, like a shopping list, we don't work like that, there are some customers, yes, they want it, send me everything you need, and I'll send it. Another thing I want us to understand is some people have been diagnosed as being neurodivergent, but there are others, they've not been diagnosed yet. But based on how they are presenting, there is something here. They are struggling. Okay, so it's our ability to step in. If they're struggling, okay, you cannot get this document from your accountant. Can I talk to your accountant directly? Okay, can I get those documents on behalf of on behalf of the company? And just an email introduction. We have had to do that. And I think that's actually key as well. But also, simplifying the document that client needs to complete is also something that we also work on. Okay, because if it's too difficult for people to understand, how can they complete it? Okay, I'll use our current account as an example. Okay, our current account is, okay, you don't pay any fees. Okay, but you also get a cashback from it. Okay, if you want to set up a bank account with us, instead of sending, okay, these are all the documents you need to complete to set up a bank account, we can take that off you and just, we'll have a call. Okay, we'll complete everything for you and we set up the bank account for you. Okay, so we're taking that away, not just for neurodivergent clients, but okay, stepping in and helping people make it as easy as possible. Okay, under the Q&A section in our website, we've decided to put like short videos in terms of, okay, if you want to complete this, this is how you go about it. So make it easy. Okay, yeah. Ellice said something about, in terms of communication, make it as open as possible. Is it via email? Is it via phone? Is it, just, make communication as easy and use different mediums to communicate with your bank. And I think, that is how banking should be. Not make it difficult as in, okay, because, it's a Friday, you cannot send an email or you cannot talk to somebody. No, okay, you've got somebody's number and somebody's name you can talk to. And another thing I think businesses also struggle with is they don't want to keep repeating themselves, because whenever you call, is either you go into a pot of people that don't understand your business, so you keep repeating yourself every time. So as a relationship bank, it's more like, okay, beginning of the year, what do you want to achieve for the next 5 years? So we already know. So that makes us really proactive to, okay, Zach told me this is what he wants to achieve in year 1. Okay, are there things we need to start putting in place to make sure that happens? Or instead of maybe year 1, okay, can we achieve that in year 5? In 5 months? So open conversations like that, I think that's, that will help as well.
No, definitely. I think we've spoken about this before, Ellice, as well. It's sort of the mindset of being able to, like you said, like, what do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? For some people, I actually, funny enough, was recently speaking to someone who I asked that question, and they went, I can't even think about the next 5 years. I can't even think about tomorrow. And I guess it's helping them understand about, it's not about what you say now is what you then have to do in the next 5 years. And some people do struggle with making those decisions. But what I found is when you're speaking to these clients is to understand, and to make people understand that asking what your business wants to achieve in 5 years is a question, but I guess the better question to ask sometimes is, what do you hope to be? Where do you see yourself in your life in 5 years' time? Because most business owners, what they do, as much as they love the business and what they want to do, their business is a vehicle to have the lifestyle that they want. So I think, Ellice, if you can sort of touch on sort of the mindset of that, because I know people sort of struggle with the sort of imposter syndrome of like where they are in their business and what they want to achieve. I think it's such a big thing to really break that down into a lot more small and achievable goals.
I think, everybody experiences imposter syndrome. And it can be an interesting experience building a business and having that direction of where you want to be. And through the lens of neurodivergence, I think some people may struggle with thinking in the future. I know I struggle with forecasting. So, thinking if I earn this much money by this point, I'll be able to do this. And sometimes I think, but I find it hard to predict and make sense of that. And that's just my experience. I know some people are really, really gifted at that and are superb at the forecasting side of things. So one thing that's quite helpful is to, again, think about where are my strengths in what I do for my work, and where are the things that actually I could do with some support with. And I think Sylvia touched on it earlier, where actually, no matter who you are, a lot of the things that we are putting into, or that Allica and Nordens are putting into practice, actually benefit everybody. It's not necessarily like a neurodivergent specific benefit. although it will really support those. I think a lot of these adjustments actually help everybody. So we were talking about the numbers earlier and all of those different codes. Surely everybody can benefit from having them in one place.
No, exactly.
So it baffles me that some of these organisations like HMRC don't already do some of these accommodations. But yeah, I think going back to the forecasting, it's a really good point in terms of, not everybody feels comfortable doing things like that, looking into the future, trying to understand your financial documents and where you might be in 5 years' time. So having somebody that can kind of help you break that down into more meaningful goals, something that makes sense for you, like looking at your, what kind of life you like or would hope for. What kind of shorter term goals might you want to focus on rather than thinking in 5 years' time?
Yeah, no, exactly. Just quickly, just touching on, there was a question in the Q&A bar. Sarah asked, are there any specific apps that help keep things really simple? I even find Xero a bit overwhelming. And Xero, whereas it probably is the most robust accounting system, but some people don't need that. There's other small ones out there. There's Free Agent, for example, which is a lot more sort of basics, more tailored for sort of the smaller sort of sole trade businesses, because obviously they don't need the whole balance sheet and all the forecasting and things like that. So Dex is a really good app as well, where you can it's a good platform to sort of keep your sort of bills all in one place. I think we spoke about it in the past, obviously, where people get overwhelmed with all the admin tasks, like the keeping hold of receipts for for 7 years and making it all of a sudden your accountant every quarter go in, oh, we need this information. You're like, oh my God, where do I have it? I don't know what to do. It's all putting in those habits to sort of go, right, well, when you do get a receipt, there's great apps like Dex, for example. You can just take a quick photo, store it on the system, and then that way you haven't got to worry about those sorts of things. And I guess automation is such a key thing in this, and it's just to make it seem as seamless as possible, because obviously, like I said, business owners, they want to run their business. They don't want to have to sit there and bog down all the boring bookkeeping and the admin tasks. If they can outsource that, and I think, again, this is where I said I'll be probably repeating myself quite a bit, is saying that having that support network in place, having those people there that give you these ideas, help you put the right systems in place, is so key to helping you run your business. I mean, like you said, Sylvia, when you're talking about, if, like, for example, you're looking to get credit, for example, or a loan, and being able to just go, right, well, the business owner doesn't really want to have these conversations with bringing the last 3 months bank statements, this, that, and the other. Being able to just go, no problem, we can speak to your accountant, we can get that information, or we can speak to your bookkeeper, we can get this information for you. I think it just makes life so much easier for people just to get through things. I mean, have you found when people are looking to get loans, for example, Sylvia, are like people struggling with getting the information over? Is that sort of the main problem that you're finding?
Yeah, like I said, some businesses, yes, they are really organized. They will get it for you. Okay, why some, yes, they will struggle. So it depends on what they are really struggling with. Like you said, in terms of forecasting, some people cannot look beyond the now. Okay, and as a bank, okay, we want you to be able to, understand where your now is, understand your past, but also where do you see your business, because that gives us the idea, you're forward thinking. Yes, not everybody, can actually think that far, so we've had cases whereby when an accountant can, let's sit down, we can have a 3-way call, let's sit down, this is where the business is, what do you think, what are the projections based on how they are trading right now? That's why I said it's always good, let's talk. If you're struggling, let's talk about it, because, we don't want to use, one brush to paint everybody, because everybody can do it. We just think, yeah, you should be able to do it as well. No, we are that flexible and very agile in sense of, people are not really getting this part. Are there ways we can actually simplify it, for people to do it? But I think ultimately it's also because we've got a very flat structure when it comes to access to lending. When I have a case in front of me and it's neither there, so it's kind of marginal, you're able to pick up the phone to an underwriter. This case is neither here nor there. How can we structure it? What are those risks? And if there are any risks, how can we mitigate those risks? Okay, so those are the conversations we can have on behalf of a business, because a business owner, like you said, they just want to run their business. Okay, they don't necessarily need to start worrying themselves about how am I supposed to write this loan or things like that. Leave that to us to look at. All you need to do is come, let's have the conversation. This is what I think I want to do. How can I go about it? Okay, I've had conversation with lots of businesses that think, I don't have any assets. Okay, because I don't have any assets that a bank can take as security. Okay, that means I cannot, I'm not eligible to take up a loan. But that's not true. Okay, because if you have, that conversation, we'll be able to look at, fine, you don't have any asset we can leverage, but the way you're running your business, you're running it so well that, are there other products within the bank we can use to leverage? So, to help you, get the loan that you need because you don't have any assets. So for the past couple of years, we've been, using the growth guarantee scheme to help those businesses that don't have assets, but they are running their business very well and they've got lots of profit in their business. So having those conversations and looking at how can we do it, is key.
Yeah. Again, it's just having those conversations, having that open dialogue. I mean, one thing I really want to make sure we sort of touch on, and I know, Ellice, when you were talking at the start, you mentioned it very briefly, but I just want to go a little bit more in depth into the neurodivergent tax and sort of just making sure that people are sort of really aware of what that is and sort of some sort of tips and tricks of how we can sort of help negate that. So do you want to talk a little bit more about the neurodiversity tax, Ellice?
Sure. So I think Nordens did a really interesting blog post around this, but there's a concept that people have coined neurodiversity tax, which means that for those that are neurodivergent, because of some of their potential struggles with money management, there might be that we have seen, there's evidence that shows that neurodivergent people are more often getting fined for late payments, or maybe spending money on extra tools to support them, might forget to cancel subscriptions more frequently, and maybe spend more time on financial tasks than others. And time is money for many of us in business. And I just find that sometimes the financial admin demands a lot of cognitive attention. And so there might be some experiences of burnout, for example. I mean, I think back to the last time I had to call HMRC and being on the phone on hold with that dreadful hold music, which is so distorted.
This is the worst sound ever, and it's ingrained. I've been in accounting 9 years, and I had, like I said, accounting 9 years. I think they've changed the whole tone once, and unfortunately, that was in the first year. So I've had about 8 years of it being the exact same whole tone. It's horrific. It's absolutely awful.
So like being on the phone, listening to that awful music, and then having to go through the process of whatever it was that I was calling about, by the time I'd finished that call, it took hours, and then I was just so exhausted and so drained from it. And that is another thing that people are saying, could be a neurodivergent tax, where it's like that cognitive demand or burnout that happens after some of these tasks. And so, that is what neurodiversity tax is about. And Nordens did a blog post on that that's quite interesting, with a few more stats and figures.
Definitely. And I think with things like HMRC and having to call them stuff, this is where having like the right person in place, having that accountant or bookkeeper in place that is more than happy to make those calls. I say happy, no one really wants to sit on hold for HMRC for what feels like 2 hours nowadays, unfortunately. But yeah, it's one of those things I've noticed a lot recently. I mean, to talk about personal experience, my sister recently was diagnosed with a neurodiversity, but I won't bore with the details. But she really struggles with the sort of the calling aspect and like having to book appointments and things like that, where she has doctors and things, and still needs either myself or my mum to help. And it's just understanding and the support that they need. It can be such a small, simple thing to us, like just picking up, like for me, just picking up a phone and calling someone is such a breeze and such an easy thing, but it's also, it can be really difficult, and it becomes hard. And when you have to do things like calling HMRC or having to deal with HMRC correspondence, it's HMRC, unfortunately, haven't got a delegate touch. It's very much a letter comes through in big blocks, right, going, you owe this, pay now, without any sort of explanation or anything. And it's having that account in place. One, I think a really good thing to suggest is having your accountant be your registered office. That what that basically means is what happens is any correspondence that goes from HMRC or company's house will of course also come to us as accountants. So then we can see the letters that you're either receiving, or it might come to us, and then we can basically call or email or text, whatever your best preference is, to basically go, right, this has happened, this is the situation, you either have this tax to pay, but basically just adding a bit more of a personal touch to it, because you have a relationship with that person, you've built that rapport. Having someone give you a call and just explain the situation to you is a lot better than receiving a awful brown envelope with HMRC logo on the corner, and you just know it for whatever reason. You never want to hear from HMRC. It's just that it is a daunting task. So if you can get someone in to take that off of you, it's a lot more beneficial for you. Also, I know I feel like we've sort of discussed it a bit. Obviously, talking about forecasting, talking about budgeting, things like that, and I think it's really handy. And obviously, I know some people don't want to look at their numbers, but it is really handy to sort of have a grasp of those numbers and having those regular check-ins. Like I said, we've done something recently sort of called accountability calls at the firm, and I think it's been really, really strong. And we've done it with quite a few clients now, where we'll have a sort of monthly meeting, and most people, what will happen is they'll spend a year doing their accounts, doing their year of work, and then they'll have the year meeting with their accountant, and we look at things and go, right, well, this didn't go so well this year, this did go well. But that meeting almost becomes irrelevant because you're just talking about retrospective work, and it just doesn't really help or benefit you. Whereas, like you said, with the neurodiversity tax, with things like subscriptions, not cancelling them, or missing payments, or spending time on HMRC, what we've decided when bringing these accountability calls, having these sort of regular discussions with accountant to client, where they could be as regular as monthly calls. You have these conversations, you can start to spot these things where we look at the figures each month that are on either Xero or QuickBooks or Sage or FreeAgent. There's so many bookkeeping softwares out there, but having that regular bookkeeping and having those regular meetings is so handy to make sure you keep on top of these things, so you don't miss out, you don't get taxed heavily, or you don't miss payments and things like that. I think it's such a important thing. I know, Ellice, we've had these sort of meetings in the past, and it gives a bit more clarity as you as a business owner of where you sort of are. I mean, you're not, like you're saying, you'd be an unbelievable business psychologist, but when it comes to the numbers, it's something you don't really want to touch. So just to have a little bit more of a gauge and understanding of where your numbers are just helps you make those more informed decisions and make sure that you are sort of taxed appropriately, and you don't miss penalty, you don't have penalties, you don't get fined, and things like that. I think it's really, really key to have these conversations. But also, one thing I do want to make sure we definitely touch on is, obviously, we're talking about all these negative points about sort of like the issues that neurodiverse people face. I mean, I do want us to talk, like, I think it'd be great if we sort of talk about, obviously, how neurodiverse business owners are usually, though, the most successful business owners. They achieve a lot more. I mean, we've discussed it a few times.
It's actually interesting when you look at the evidence, because apparently 72% of business owners report neurodivergence. So it's so interesting that I think that a number of people who choose to go self-employed or start building businesses do experience neurodivergent differences. And I think that self-employment can sometimes really play to our strengths because it's more flexible. We might have specialist knowledge, and sometimes thinking differently is absolutely fantastic. The uniqueness that comes from the work that we might be doing, and that diversity is amazing in business. That uniqueness is sometimes our unique selling point. I always find as well that my neurodivergent business owners and my clients have this amazing risk tolerance as well. It's like, I feel like that's a real asset as well in business, where they've got amazing ideas and they're quite risk tolerant. So it almost seems like they've got the confidence to try something new and be really proactive in their business, which is pretty cool as well. There's so many strengths And I just think it's no wonder that a number of people do become self-employed and business owners. But I also wonder how many of us maybe wanted to go into self-employment and be a business owner because we didn't feel like we fit in with the kind of employment side of things. Because I know that that's a conversation I've had with a few people as well. So I do think that, just as a side note, a lot of organisations need to do better at being more neurodivergent, neuroaffirming and inclusive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was talking to, like I said, to my sister the other day. I mentioned that we were doing this webinar, and I just asked. Obviously, she's at uni at the minute, so not a business owner, but just sort of wanting to understand sort of neurodiversity. And I said to her, like, what sort of questions would you like to be discussed? And she said that she was a bit worried when she finishes uni and goes into that workplace of will she be treated differently? Who can she speak to about her neurodiversity? And it really like opened my eyes a little bit more, because obviously someone who isn't myself neurodivergent, I've never really had to worry about these sorts of things of fitting in, or worried that what other people are going to think of me. I'm quite a open person. People think what they think about me. I'm fine with it, but I know it can be a real struggle in it, and it's good. I think it's good to sort of maybe talk about it for a second, just like the right people to speak to of an organisation who can sort of give you that support and that give that advice, really, if you understand what I'm saying.
I think something we obviously keep coming back to is the relationships with people. Yes. And I think that, I think that many of us go into business, like, I'm a business psychologist. I wanted to create a business so that I could, help organisations understand the needs of their people. And that is what I specialise in, not finance. And so... kind of recognizing that and delegating has been definitely one of the biggest benefits. And I'm so grateful to Nordens and the people that over the years who have been really open and accommodating. And I think that relationship building and having people who are able to work with our brains, understanding how we process information or where our strengths lie and where we might need a little bit of extra support, and just being really non-judgmental about it. Like that's been something that I've truly valued, and I think that Nordens are great at that. And it's great as well when you find a bank that's also able to have these relationships with us, because I think before I started business, banks were, these invisible places that seemed really difficult to navigate. But when you get given a lovely relationship manager who you don't have to be on hold for, and you can explain what your preferences are in terms of communication styles and what you might need, and getting help to fill out whatever the forms are, or the loan applications and stuff like that, and just really breaks down some barriers. So I think, working with people in a way that works with your style is one of the fundamentals that has supported my money management. And I want also to make people aware that I did end up changing banks so that I could get that support, and with that came its own administrative fun, but once I got there, I was like, I'm so happy that I did this, because now everything is automated. Everything is running through the apps that Zach has mentioned. I completely agree with the person in the comments saying that Xero can be a bit overwhelming. For me, I just stick to what I need to use and think, if there's anything else, then I'll leave that to my accountants, or I'll ask my accountants when I need to understand it. So understanding financial tools, totally respect that. I think a lot of them are quite inaccessible. But it's great to have the relationships with the finance team that I do work with to be able to help me.
Definitely. And I think on top of obviously the bookkeeping softwares and things like that, and we talk about forecasting, I think it's really handy to sort of know when we talk about forecasting, it is really handy to do, just so you are aware of your numbers. And there's things that we can put in place that basically allows you to sort of, like I said, when we ask about those goals and you go, right, well, I've got all these systems in place, but like, what am I actually looking to achieve? And you want to achieve X, Y, and Z in the next 5 years. It's quite, like you said, quite overwhelming, and it's bringing back to, well, if this is roughly what you want to achieve in the next 5 years, instead of going, right, cool, we'll chat in 5 years' time. It's right, well, what do you need to achieve in 5 years? You need to achieve in 4, and then for 4 years, it's 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, 1 month. I think it's just really making sure that you just have those small achievable goals, because otherwise it can become overwhelming. Like if you ask Zach at 15 years old, 16 years old, where did he want to be in his life? I don't know if I would have said accountant where I am now. I don't think I would have said that. But then over the years, what you want to achieve changes, and it's making sure that changes go okay. And this is what a great thing about forecasting is it's just to understand where you want to be in the next 5 years and how that changes. But if you want to change, it's absolutely fine, because this world is forever changing, and it's making sure that when you are having that correct system, the correct team in place, that we have those conversations where you've wanted something to achieve, and then something happens in your life that either hyper escalates things. For example, you could have a pregnancy, or you could have just anything that comes in life that throws that curveball at you. It's being able to have the right team in place to go in and go, right, I need help, because otherwise I don't want to put my head in the sand and speak to them. Go, oh, but we said we were going to do this in the next 5 years. This is going to throw all those plans away. It's adapting and changing and having that support in place. If it is the bank manager to help you get a loan in place, if it is a mindset coach to help you sort of navigate how you should be feeling and how to best feel in these moments, or it is the accountant who's there just to make sure that you are just sticking to achieving what you need to achieve and making sure that things are paid on time and things, is so important to have that in place. I mean, obviously, guys, any questions you guys have, please feel free to put them in the chat as we're sort of wrapping up in the next few minutes. I mean, just another thing with obviously just talking about championing neurodiverse business owners, like you said, business psychologist. I feel that neurodiverse business owners, some do, like my sister, for example. I keep bringing her up, and I got permission to bring her up beforehand, so we're all good. She won't get too angry at me keep on bringing her up. But she has what's called hyperfixations, and what hyperfixations are is basically just understanding a topic to the nth degree. And I think why business owners and a lot of neurodiverse business owners who go into the business is that they're passionate about it. It's because they want to know absolutely everything about that business, and that's why they become such good business owners. To give you an example, my sister watched one shark documentary last year, and if you ask her any question about a shark now, she will know every single shark, all the breeding habits, everything. It is incredible how much she knows about it, and she just has that knowledge there, because when she's not obsessed, when she has a passion or has something that she enjoys, she throws everything into it. Everything. She'll have a shark phone case. Yeah, I got a shark I got shark trainers for Christmas, and these things like that, because she's just throwing everything into that. Sorry, it's a bit of a side tangent there, but like, because business owners are able, especially neurodiverse ones, who have that fixation of just wanting to know everything about their business, allows them to achieve so much more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think people have deep specialist knowledge in their areas, and that's such a strength. That's such a real asset in business. Definitely. that I think is really important to highlight for sure.
Yeah, because I
think. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I say what we look at their strength is also to celebrate their strength. You know, you touched on so many wonderful things. You know, celebrate that part. But another thing you touched on, Zach, is, okay, don't bury your head in the sand in terms of, okay, those areas that you think you're not so good at. There is help out there. You know, there's absolutely help out there. You know, and there's no shame in coming up and, okay, I'm really struggling here. We all struggle. You know, it's just like you spoke about your sister. I wish I could watch a program and know everything about a program. No, okay, because my brain is wired differently. You know, so when I see people like that, you know, absolutely, I celebrate that part of them, because that's the part I lack. You know, so it's another thing. I think educating people is also very, very keen. Educating your workforce so everybody's on the same page. Like right now, we're just going through our HR, going through training and training all staff, training all, managers. You spoke on your sister thinking about, there are some people that might not want to set up a business, but they want to go into employment. Okay. Are they being stereotyped and, kind of shipped out, and they don't get the job that they actually deserve? But if everybody's trained and they understand, they know, okay, this person is unique. Okay. And this person can function this way. Let's adjust to make it easy. The same way we help business owners as well.
Yeah, and that's why when Nordens got Ellice in to do the training, I think it opened up a lot of eyes, and we had a lot of conversations about not just neurodiverse business owners, but just neurodiversity in general, and just sort of removing some of the stigma towards it. And hence why I wanted to sort of bring up the sort of championing of neurodiversity, because obviously we talk about all the struggles that they go through, but obviously we also wanted to highlight before we ended the call, just to say how people are supported and how they are. Like I said, we want to celebrate neurodiverse business owners and help them grow, because they are, like everyone, just incredible people that have incredible business ideas and want to grow, and we want to be there to support them. And I think a good way to sort of wrap this up, and I know we've mentioned it a few times, obviously we've gone through multiple sort of little tools that could help. Obviously your zeros, your decks, obviously forecasting, having that open relationship with your bank manager, and having that mindset. But I think it all comes down to having that support network in place. It's so key, because if you have any problems or any queries, being able to go to that support network would just be incredible, because you really, like I said, the amount of conversations that Ellice and I had. I mean, Ellice, I hope you don't mind sharing. Obviously, when me and Ellice first started talking, Ellice's business wasn't quite going the way she was hoping it would go, and it was a bit of a treacherous time. But we had a conversation, we communicated, and I mean, I use you as one of my success stories a lot of the time. Is like where we were to where we are now, and it's because it's that open dialogue, that open communication, where we've done the forecasting, we've seen where things are. For example, Ellice was like, I wasn't sure if I need a new vehicle, I don't know if I can afford it in the business. And it's having that conversation of just having a conversation about her and a car led us to building forecasts for her, to help her understand that this is an affordable thing, and here's how the numbers work for you, and just breaking it down just that little bit more sort of eye-opening and everything like that. I think there was something else in the chat that just popped up. So
I guess it's a case of, you're not alone. We recognise that there might be some challenges, and we also really want to celebrate the strengths and have the confidence to reach out to the people that you're working with, even if it's not these two lovely people here.
Anyone, exactly.
And from personal experience, I really would, as much as change can be really uncomfortable for some of us, sometimes that change can come with some real benefits. Like I said about changing my bank so that everything was automated and it was much more user friendly, in my opinion. And Allica can actually build things around you, which I think is just such a unique offering from a banking service, because many platforms that I'm aware of, it's a one size fits all. But wherever Allica involved, their product team can actually help you tailor it to what you need it to do. And yeah, just to reach out to the professionals around finances, so that we can do what we do best and run our businesses in whatever it is that we've chosen to run them in.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I saw Sarah put a message on about getting links to you guys. I believe it's on the email that you guys signed up on anyway, that your links are there. But I mean, it'd be great to, if you want to carry on conversation with any of us, we'll pop in the links in the chat. Obviously, feel free to add all of us on LinkedIn. We're happy to continue the conversation. If anyone didn't feel like they wanted to ask any questions on the open forum, but have any questions that they want to ask privately, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. We're happy to support you, support any neurodiverse business owner, any business owner whatsoever. So please feel free to reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation. I just want to thank you both for being here today and contributing to, I think, a really good conversation that needs to happen. And I think more conversations like this need to be open in the neurodiverse space. So Ellice and Sylvia, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Zach. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, listen, everyone have a lovely rest of your day. Like I said, any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to continue this conversation. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week, and see you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.